Hello, and we're going to talk about some of the productivity tools that were addressed in Module 4 this week. Um, you know, Looking through the list, there were some that I had used before prior to this, and then some that were completely new to me that I had, really no clue exactly what they were. Um, I think that looking through the list, I saw some good things that can really help. Um, And I think that also saw some things that probably needed a little bit of work, but overall it was pretty good. So I'm just going to take you through a couple of the ones that I had run across. This one I thought was pretty cool. This is designed. This is a newsletter template, whatever. And you could see Miss Smith or whoever put most of her newsletters that go out. Obviously, that this says third grade. I teach freshmen, so it could be a little bit of a modify it a little bit to make it a little bit more content oriented. But it looks pretty good. It looks like you have a good template to work on, and some of the stuff is obviously editable to where obviously donors choose is not going to be something that in a high school classroom that you would use. Um, but just in the other classes that I've taken in terms of my grad school, communication with the parents is key, and you see that day in and day out that these sorts of things are key. Is to communicate with the parents, let them know what's even if it's not weekly, every couple weeks, just to keep everybody involved in what's going on. Um, and I think that by doing this, it really helps. So this is one of the things I saw that I kind of liked. Um, and also, I think that in itself, this helps with communication and collaboration because, obviously it's communication because you're sending it out to the parents, but then also collaboration because you could ask, have a quiz on there. Hey, how's your student doing with this sort of content, this sort of idea, this sort of term, and then go from there. Um, with differentiation, you can put different anchor charts up here on the newsletter, some practice, things like that. If you know somebody's struggling in it, you don't have to just send it home with one kid. You can just put it as a, maybe as a heading down here, right here, and then you would, extra work or, something along those lines. And I think that would be a pretty good thing to do. Um, and with student support with disabilities, this right here is pretty simple to me, and it just looks there's obviously some hyperlinks here that you could put. It could take you to multiple things. It doesn't just have to be a wish list and things like that. It could be really anything. So this would just keep everybody involved in the same process, and I think that it would be a good thing to use really in any age group, especially with high schoolers, freshmen especially, because they have not yet got that sort of responsibility behind them, and so I think this would be sort of a benefit for them. So that's the first one. Moving on, I saw this just looking around Microsoft. Um, this is Microsoft Planner, and this is the first time I've looked at it. So me, I just love the fact that they have something to where you can have a plan and stick to it. You can type in whatever right here that you would make a plan for. So just right here, this is my high school one, the one I work at. Add a task, you would enter a task, record data, and then set the due date for today, and then you would assign. Obviously, I'm not going to do that with this one, but I think that you have a lot of different options here. It looks pretty good. You got the schedule, so every day you could go in here and say we had something next Friday, DLD screencast, and then to do, you assign it, and then you would add the task. I find myself, I've tried to be more digital about things because I think that's where everything's heading towards. But for me, it's hard to get away from pen and paper, but this has something that is in one central location. Up here at the waffle up here, you would see all these other things, email, OneDrive, everything that I use daily. And this is just taking a step further with using the planner to be more organized and everything like that. And this could be shared with anybody, really. So you could have this as your class schedule or in your own personal planner as well. This is collaboration because your students would be on this site right here looking at it, and you have up here to where it tells you, hey, how many tasks do you have left? You've started it, haven't completed it, or it's late because it's red. And depending on what's up here, you're clearly communicating. And honestly, this to me is creative because this is something out of the ordinary that most people are not used to. This can be used as sport differentiation because some kids have extended time, and this goes ahead with the students with disabilities. Some kids have extended time on assignments, to where they might get a week extra. I have my first block has a lot of ESEP kids in it, so this would be beneficial to sort of differentiate due dates from one class to the next, and really one student to the next as well. So I think this would be beneficial as well. And looking at some of these sheets, it really shows that there's a lot of really good ones. And so, 10 add-ons that you must try. And while looking at this, I think that this one especially might be one of the best in terms of you are really trying to make everything digital. So right here, it drive slides and it saves it to Google Drive automatically. And just reading around a little bit, you have this to where it can be saved to Google Drive in terms of really trying to make everything a little bit more digital. Sometimes our Canvas software, things like that is not really great, but I think that overall that it works. So I think this is good. And this one lady has a lot right here that can also be used. Group size, you got 4, you could put 5 maybe, and over here 6. So you come over here, Taylor, Mike, Sarah, and then you'd come here, you'd enter the entire roster, and you'd go add-ons, group maker, and then start. And after you would go through this, and I really can't do it because it's on my work computer and everything in Paulding County is blocked, but it would automatically put people in groups. And this would be good for if you want to mix it up a little bit than what you're normally doing, like you actually going through it. And this is collaborative, right? This is what it's about, because if you have a group project, that's collaboration in itself because people are working with each other. It's creative because it's something else different besides you just looking at Lexile levels or just knowing your kids and putting them in groups themselves. So I think that's really good as well. That's one of the ones that I really liked. So just keep going. This is teacher newsletter we talked about to begin with. So we just look. Rubric. I think that making an actual rubric is probably one of the hardest things and most time-consuming things that teachers go through. I remember during my EdTPA, years ago, that was probably one of the hardest ones to do, is really gear the rubric towards what you're trying to get the students to understand about, whatever project, activity, assessment, whatever you're doing in class. And so that to me was super, super important. But that in itself, having this to where it's just editable, you could have 4 points each, description, and then you could type, whatever into it for advanced. You got proficient, basic, in progress, unacceptable. And obviously these terms and everything can be changed, but that's just, exactly, what you're looking at. Okay, so this is, pay no attention to this. All right, so, and just looking at just off Office 365, there are a lot of really good things that could be used here. So obviously you have Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all this stuff, but you keep going. You got Sway and Forms, which Forms I've used a lot more than Sway, but Sway is still one of those things that, you can really sort of enhance whatever you're trying to get across. So we'll go desertification. Page not found. Great. Well, let's start a brand new one. You can see, so there's Microsoft Sway, and this is something that, we'll say world geography. Add text, and look, I mean, you can add images, and it has, different sort of images that you can look up on the internet, and then here's a world map. You just go ahead and add this in here. So it's sort of like the Adobe that we worked on earlier in this module, but just a little bit more, I think a little bit more less intuitive than the Adobe. But obviously, I mean, you could use this, you could use Adobe, you could use anything as long as it's centered towards student learning. This checks off to me creativity and critical thinking, because obviously it's a little bit different than what most people are used to. And then obviously creativity, you can really make this exactly however you want it to be. With the design, you got different styles that you could use, tons of options. Sort of relatable to like a PowerPoint, but a little bit more in depth than that. With differentiation, allows you to do a lot of different things, embed videos, images, text. So that in itself is differentiation. And then students with disabilities, there's also recorded options to where you can actually talk into it and place it there. And then obviously there's other options even if those don't work, in terms of what you would actually have to change up in class itself. So those are sort of the add-ons and sort of productivity tools that I really liked. So I think that this module really helped, and I think that moving forward that a lot of these tools can be automatically implemented. So thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.